The Chicago Bears have an opportunity to trade out of their number one spot in the draft and move back. We all know this, right? But the question on the table is one of the top five teams the best trade package for them, or should they be looking outside of that top five? We'll be looking at one of the teams that I really think could give the Bears a big helping hand on today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. So if you are new to the channel, first off, welcome to the channel. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Here's the thing, right? Bears have an opportunity to trade out of this pick. We know this. The first round pick, everybody expects us to trade out of this pick. But the question on the table for me is one of these top five spots the best spot for the Chicago Bears to make a trade? And the reason that I'm saying this is because, right, we know that the Bears want to go out there and get this premier defender in the top five, right? Like, that's why people have said, hey, you got to go out there and you got to trade with Houston so that you can still get Jalen Carter, Will Anderson Jr., or Indianapolis, right? So that you can still get one of those two guys, because those are two of the top guys in the draft. They're projected to be top guys in the NFL for a long time. And I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I love that, right? And I had the video talking about how the Bears kind of have to drum up a little bit more interest from some of these other teams. And so the question that I have on the table today, and let me know in the comments below as well, do you feel like there's a team outside of the top five teams on the board that the Chicago Bears should be looking to trade with? And the reason that I bring this up, right, is because the further down you go, the higher the price becomes. You just have to be okay with selecting players at those spots. But the further down you go, the more you're able to get for that first round draft pick, right? And I think that that's something that Chicago Bears absolutely need to look into. And here's the thing. There's a team that I have in mind that I feel like would absolutely be a clear gain, right? That they need a quarterback. Now, this does all depend on what happens with Derek Carr. Where does Derek Carr end up going? How is he going to affect the quarterback market? Where's Aaron Rodgers end up going? How does he affect the quarterback market? But the one team that I'm looking at right now, outside of the top five, that I think the Chicago Bears should absolutely be looking to talk to is the Carolina Panthers, a team that does need a quarterback, a team that is really, really in reset mode now, right? Especially with moving on from CMC. They've got brand new head coach in the building. They're trying to regrow this thing from the ground up. And the best way for you to do that is to start by finding the quarterback of your future. Now, if Carolina were to make this, they sit currently at the number 9 overall selection. So you're moving back quite a few spots to go down there and get or allow them to select their quarterback. You're not getting Jalen Carter. You're not getting Will Anderson Jr. at those spots, right? Like that's just, it's not realistic to think the Bears are going to be able to get either of those guys when it goes down. So why in the world would I want to make a trade with the Carolina Panthers in this situation? To me, it comes down to the fact that you're still getting a top 10 player in this draft, right? Like, I think you could go back there and as long as you trust your evaluation, you're still able to get a really good player that should be able to make really, really good impact for the Chicago Bears moving forward. But here's the thing. They also have a player on their team that addresses the need that you thought you need, the need that you thought you were going to address in the draft, but he's already in the NFL making plays. And to me, right, the first thing on the table, if you are to talk to somebody in the Carolina organization, is you got to send me back Brian Burns. Let's have that conversation first and foremost. You're not in a position for him to have a huge impact on your team wins-wise, right? We already know what he can do on the field and wreaking havoc, but wins-wise, he's not going to make a huge impact for your team. So let me get Brian Burns off of you. Yes, I am also going to take some draft capital. I'd probably want to first round pick for next year as well. I'd probably also want a second in this year's draft, right? Maybe a fourth in next year's draft. I'd be willing to go even less on the draft capital if I get back a player like Brian Burns. I do get the number 9 overall pick. And the reason is because now I have that premier guy that's going to be hitting the quarterback play in and play out on my team, and he's already in the NFL. I don't have to wonder if he's good, right? And I still come away with all of this at the end of the day with a top 10 pick. Now, to me, right, you take that top 10 pick at this point, right now, it's not what I want at the end of the day, but I think you would have to go with probably one of the offensive tackles in early on in this draft, and you feel a little bit better drafting them at the 9th overall selection versus in that top 5 there, right? But I think the thing for me is, right, like now all of a sudden I'm getting a player that can come on to the field day one, play one in Brian Burns and be able to make plays immediately, impacting on the defensive side of the ball. I'm moving down. I can either go get the wide receiver of my future or offensive line help. Either way, I think they'll probably lean a little bit more towards offensive line help now that the Super Bowl has ended. And it seems like the Chiefs are going to be re-signing, per reports, Orlando Brown Jr. to another franchise tag, right? They're going to be invoking a franchise tag on him yet again. It makes a little bit of a difference, right? Like it's a little bit tougher when you start to look at the free agent market. Not to say there's not good talent out there, right? And I think that you still have to go out and you have to make an impact in free agency. But at the same time, now you're making this trade. You get Brian Burns in the building. Okay, let's say we go out there and we also get a Daron Payne, or we go out there and we also get a Jonathan Hargraves, right? Those are guys that you can bring in, and all of a sudden you're talking about a defense that is built with a younger defense that is making an instant impact. Now you're actually getting pressure on the quarterback. He had 12.5 sacks this season alone in his career. He has 38. By the way, he's only 24 years old. He's only been in the league 4 seasons. This guy is a monster right now at the defensive end position. You still need to go out there and get your 3 technique. I think you find that in Daron Payne or Hargraves. I don't know if Hargraves is going to leave Philly after what we just saw, right? An amazing Super Bowl run by that team. They'll probably try and get him back in there, but they are going to have to trim the fat when it comes to some of these players, right? Because somebody's going to have to get paid. That is very important to this team. So for me, right, like, now I'm looking at this entire situation and saying, okay, we can rebuild this all out by trading down in the draft, still adding in free agency. Doesn't change anything with that. Maybe we do go out there and we get one of these top rookie tackles or one of these top rookie wide receivers, right? At that point, you still have the pick of the litter at both of those positions for the most part. And you're hoping that you're able to go out in free agency and address the offensive line even more. But now you're not sitting there looking for or having questions on, right? Like if you select Will Anderson Jr., Jalen Carter, top 5, you know right now, hey, this guy's got to hit. This guy's got to make an impact. He's got to live up to what we're selecting him at the top of the draft. And the one thing that I will say, by the way, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you think that the Panthers would be a good team for the Chicago Bears to look to trade back with? Is this a team that can have some immediate impact on the Bears? Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. This will be the pinned comment, so drop a comment in there, a Y for yes or an N for no. Here's the thing when it comes to the Chicago Bears moving, if they were to make a trade like this, right, you're still looking at a lot of spots that are going to be filled even past this year. So you want to continue to increase and optimize on the draft capital as much as you can. I'm not even saying Carolina's the best situation for this, but I think the thing is now when you start to move down the draft board, when you start to go down the list of teams that have draft picks and are in need of quarterbacks, right? You say, okay, yeah, Indianapolis makes a lot of sense, especially because they said they'd move mountain and hell or high water. They're going to find their quarterback of the future in this draft, right? Houston's interesting. 1, because they gave us the pick, but 2, also because, right, like they're still, they're getting themselves settled. Are they even going to take a quarterback at the top of this draft? But as you go further down the list, you just look and you're like, man, I feel like we could get more from that and a productive player. I feel like we could get more in this position and a productive player. Having somebody who you already know, right? Like essentially you're spending your first round draft pick on Brian Burns in this situation. Having somebody you already know that can come on the field day one, play one, and wreak havoc havoc, and you don't have to worry about anything with that. And he's a younger player at that. I think, to me, right, that makes the most sense in the situation. And there's a lot of teams that have that kind of draft capital and have those kinds of players that the Bears should be looking at, man. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to how you're going to fill the holes on this team quickest, it's by solidifying one thing that is a major issue for you. You need to solidify your trenches on both sides. I'm not saying, and I know a lot of people will say, we need to focus on the offense. We need to focus on the offensive line. We also need to spend our money wisely. It's not just we have $98 million now, right? And we just need to go spend $98 million. We need to spend our money wisely. If you feel like the best player that's on the table, and in free agency, you're going to overpay for a lot of these guys. But if you feel like the best player that's on the table is a defensive lineman, a defensive tackle, a 3 technique coming up the middle, right? That's what you need to go spend your money on, because the value of this player is higher right now. We're not just in the market of going out there and spending $98 million. And I don't want the Bears to be cheap here either, right? I don't want to come out of this offseason and feel like, hey, we really didn't go address anything. We didn't spend money on anything. We didn't get Justin Fields any help. I'm not saying that either, right? But I think the thing is, you have to go out there and you have to be able to make plays. You have to go out there and have to be able to find players that are going to be on the field consistently making plays. And this can't be, hey, we brought this guy in here for $20 million a year, and we're just hoping that he's going to turn back into the player that he once was, or we're just hoping that he's going to have the production that he had in his previous city here, right? And we've done that one too many times here. That goes into system, that goes into scheme, that goes into a lot of different things. But I think the thing is that the Chicago Bears have to spend their money wisely. You can't just go out here spending money willy-nilly. And you bring a guy in like Brian Burns, right? You know that I believe he's got one more year on that deal. You can re-up on him. He's a player that's going to make an impact. He's going to be solid. You feel good about paying a guy at the defensive end position. I love that, right? Hey, let's go out here and spend money on some guys up the middle. Let's go out here. And now all of a sudden, all these young players on the backside that we're sitting here like, okay, what's he going to become? What's he going to become? What's he going to become? The defensive line makes them better. I thought Deebo Samuel said it so well when he was talking about Bradbury before the Super Bowl happened, right? And he said, listen, Slay is a dog. Bradbury is benefiting from the pressure that the defensive line creates. Yeah, 110%. But you know what? That helps. If you have a defensive line that's creating that pressure, that helps with those younger pieces that you have on your team becoming better players. So guess what? Boom. All of a sudden, now we're talking about Kyler Gordon as a really nice cornerback in this NFL. Now we're talking about Jaquan Brisker, Eddie Jackson as really nice players in this NFL. You know, I don't know what the contract situation is going to be like with some of these guys. We are going to break down, should the Bears keep or let go some of these players throughout the year, or throughout the offseason, I should say. But I mean, to me, right, like, I think that this is a situation where the Bears can address a lot on one side of the ball and still have the capital and the money and the assets to address the offensive side of the ball as well. That's the goal here. Create a great balance. Create a great balance. You look at that. I know what it came down to at the end of the day, but you look at that Philly team, balanced. Great defense, great offense, came to play, just went up against a greater offense in Pat Mahomes and them boys, and it turned into some L's in the Super Bowl. But I would rather have a team that is more balanced, right? Like we none of us would be surprised if Philly's back in the Super Bowl next year. I think we'd be more surprised if Kansas City's back there, just because of how many holes they actually had on the team, which shows how impressive it is that they won the Super Bowl in that fashion. But none of us would be surprised if Philly was back in the Super Bowl next year, if Jalen Hurts takes another step. You know what I mean? Like, none of us. And so I think that that's the part that the Bears have to establish, that balance on the team. And hopefully that's what we see come out of this, man. But hey, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. Should the Chicago Bears look to trade with one of these teams outside the top 10? My team would be the Carolina Panthers. Let me know what your team would be in the comments below as well. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.